Is there anyone else?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. My name is Birawa Maria
From where? Excuse me?
Port Jalmio.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Abia Rogaba Richard, former Managing Director, unemployed.
Okay. Allow me to welcome you all to this committee investigating matters surrounding the NSSF saga.
Chair, is the last person to introduce himself a witness or part of the select committee? This wing is for technical and select committee.
I will address that. The committee has specific terms of reference. 1, to examine the corporate governance structures at the NSSF. 2, to examine the circumstances surrounding the appointment of the fund's MD. 3, to evaluate the status and safety of the savers' money in the fund. 4, to examine the extent of stakeholder engagement in the decision making at the fund. And lastly, to inquire into any other matters incidental thereto. This is the second time, and I believe this is the last time you are going to appear before this committee. And it is probably why we invited specific departments to come in large numbers. Members may want to interact with the members of your departments and not specifically the heads of those departments. We have also invited various stakeholders. We have the unions, NOTU. We have the former managing director, because some of the decisions were taken when he was still the managing director, and probably Mr. Yota may not have responses. Since this is the last time, we thought we could invite you. During our previous engagement with the former MD, I believe most of you are watching on screen and probably giving him answers to some of the questions. So since you are in the same room, I don't know how that is going to work. But it has really been a tiring investigation. You loaded us with several information, very large documents. But luckily enough, we have managed to dissect those documents in the quickest time possible, and it will be evident in the questions we are going to ask. For those who have never been to this committee or a parliamentary committee, allow me to give you just insight into how committees operate and the special powers these committees have. 208 of our rules of procedure. Special powers of committees. In exercise of their functions, a committee may call any minister or any person holding public office and private individuals submit memoranda to appear before them and give evidence. That means we can select anyone who has introduced himself to give us information, and not specifically the heads or your corporation secretary or your acting MD or even your former MD. B, may employ qualified persons to assist in the discharge of their functions. C, may call or invite any person to take part in the proceedings of the committee without the right to vote. D, shall have the powers of the High Court. 4, I, enforcing the attendance of witnesses and examining them on oath or affirmation or otherwise, as you will see. Should a witness try to give contradictory information, a member can ask to put you on oath under Rule 212 of our Rules of Procedure. At that time, should you be put on oath and you continue giving us falsehoods when we are aware of the facts, you'll have committed perjury and you will be escorted immediately to wherever they will take you. Compelling the production of documents. Should this committee require any document, you must provide it. 3, issuing a commission or request to examine witnesses abroad. E, order for their arrest and confinement of a recalcitrant witness for purpose of investigation by a competent authority, and lastly, cite any person in contempt of Parliament. Contempt of Parliament, an act or omission which obstructs or impedes Parliament in the performance of its functions, or which obstructs or impedes a member or officer of Parliament in the discharge of his duties or affronts the dignity of Parliament, or which tends either directly or indirectly to produce such a result, shall be contempt of Parliament. So this is the last time you are appearing. We expect nothing but the truth. If you are here and probably you are fearing your boss, you will carry the cross and not your boss, should you be the one to be asked a question. So we expect nothing and nothing but the truth. We have invited you in large numbers. Probably we have closed the NSSF today. It should not be in vain. So without wasting much of your time, allow me to invite the management of NSSF. They have a presentation, a response to some of the questions we asked last time, and thereafter we can go into the serious business. So can we have the acting MD?
Thank you, Chair.
Just a minute. Honorable Bakabulindi raised the matter of procedure regarding Mr. Byarugawa sitting on this side. I thought, since he's no longer part of the management, I thought it wise to have him sit and watch. But members, how would you wish to proceed? You want him to sit with the current management? Yes, Honorable Amos.
Thank you, Chair. One, we recognize that not all the guests seated on the other side are management and staff of NSSF. There are other invited guests, like the members of the unions. So even Byarugawa, Dr. Byarugawa sitting that side doesn't mean that he has gone into management. And maybe the committee would like to be looking at him. You never know, we could be picking non-verbal cues from the questions and his reactions. So my opinion is that let him be the other side too, if it is okay with you.
Honorable Gaffa, lastly.
Chair, the only colleague has said exactly what I wanted to say. Because their questions would directly ask Mr. Byarugawa and would want to see him in the face as he responds to them. So let him be on the side of the witnesses, not behind us.
Okay. Maybe you can sit next to Mr. Yota. I don't know if they are friends. No, you can give him space. You don't want... We can provide another chair. You want them to sit very close to each other? Since he's no, you can have another seat put the other side, probably. And he can sit there. You want to give him space. He should not be too close to the current MD. You never know what could happen. So you can just move you can go and sit at the end. Remove that. Let's have that chair removed. I can see the body language already from the staff. They are happy. Can we go back into serious business? Current acting managing director, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. The number of questions that were raised by the committee the last time we're here, we provided written responses, and I'll just go through them as fast as we can, and then you can seek for clarification. We've kind of batched them based on the thematic area so that the flow makes it more easily to explain. Current state of the suspense account. We begin by taking the suspense account basically arises out of the following situations. Recovery of audited arrears from members that are no longer employed with the audited company at the time of remittance and cannot be immediately be traced for registration purposes. Collection of contribution for new employees without national identification numbers, which are prerequisite for registration with the NSSF. We now have 52 billion shillings in what we call the suspense account as of the 6th of February 2023, broken down basically in two parts. We have 16 billion in current member suspense, and we have what we call 36 billion shillings in historical suspense. We have cleared records worth 9 billion from the suspense account for the period July 2022 to Feb 2023. We have in place initiatives to mitigate the growth of suspense, including the e-collection portal, which makes it impossible for employers to remit without complete employee information. Publication of suspense in different media platforms, as well as field engagements aimed at tracing members on the suspense account. We have also fully integrated with NIRA to enable registration of members, and this has significantly reduced the amount of incoming suspense. The bulk of the suspense relates to historical periods. Once all efforts to clear suspense are exhausted, we will publish all pending suspense and have it moved to the reserves as per provision of the NSSF Act. There is a process for clearing of funds from the suspense account. Upon registration of members whose funds are on suspense account, the contributions are transferred to the member's account. There are robust control to ensure that the rule of checker is followed in the process of suspense management. How are the decisions for penalty waivers made? The NSSF Act gives the managing directors powers to waive a penalty, and this has been exercised on several employers. Following an audit of an employer, the fund makes a demand for arrears, interest therein, and penalty. Upon settlement of the arrears and interest, employers are free to apply for waiver of penalty, and if they meet the eligibility criteria, that's payment of interest and principal in full, they are either granted full or partial waiver of the penalty. Do balances in suspense account receive interest? Yes. The money in suspense account is part of the total balance upon which the fund declares interest. And once a member on suspense is traced and registered, all contributions and accrued interest are credited to the member's account. The soccer fraud case, what steps have been taken to recover this money? The staff concerned was subject to a disciplinary process leading to their exiting the fund. The fund filed a complaint with the police to recover the affected funds. Mr. Soccer has since been tried in the anti-corruption court, and the ruling is awaited. We have also measures put in place to improve the controls. In fact, there's an internal audit report that we have submitted to the committee regarding this case. Breakdown of members with differences in balances. About 2.2% of total membership, that's 34,000 members, have balances over 100 million shillings and over. Now, this 2.2% of members hold 7.9 trillion shillings in balances, which constitutes about 47.3% of the total member fund. About 2.4% of total membership, that's 36,000 members, have balances of between 50 to 99 million shillings, and their combined balance is 2.5 trillion shillings, representing 15.2% of total member funds. About 95% of the members, that's 1.4 million members, have balances of less than 50 million shillings, and the combined balance is 6.2 trillion shillings, representing 37.4% of total member fund. What's interesting to note is out of the 1.4 million members who have balances of less than 50 million shillings, 1.2, almost 1.3 million members, which is 83.4%, have balances of less than 10 million shillings, and they have combined balance of 2.3 trillion shillings, which is 13.7% of the total member funds. Total number of investments made and how many lost to values in respect to real estate. We have 210 total investments that have been made, broken down as follows: 142 government bonds, 4 fixed deposits at this point in time, 1 corporate bond, 1 loan, 27 listed equities, 4 private equity investments, 1 private equity fund, and 30 pieces of land / project / properties. Only 1 real estate actually lost to value. This is the West Nile Golf Club, that was acquired before 2010. And at this point in time, we are putting in effort to recover those monies. It's important for the committee to note that the fund takes a portfolio view of its investments. The portfolio view enables the fund to monitor the performance of the investment on an overall basis. The fact that the fund has grown consistently over the years proves that there have been higher performing assets than lower performing assets within the investment portfolio. Are you aware of any undervalued assets? No, we are not currently. When planning housing investment, who is our target? The target market is informed by the neighborhood and product positioning. Loboa Phase 1, 306 units is a high-end product. We believe there's a market for this product, distributed as follows. Members with high balances of salary, senior managers in the corporate world or capitals of industry from the fund's database. This group has almost 1,500 members. Ugandans in the diaspora, many have been fleeced by their relatives in attempting to build house organically. There are over 1 million Ugandans in the diaspora, but we are targeting at least 100 of that group. Expatriates, high net worth Ugandans in the informal sector. Moreover, the project will be phased. We cannot embark on Phase 2 if Phase 1 has not been sold. Temangalo is an affordable housing product positioning. Phase 1 is 550 units. We also have Chanja, which is 160 units. The feasibility studies for Loboa, Temangalo, and Pension Towers have been provided to the committee. And also, in terms of process of cost variations, which are normally caused by changes in scope and time previously envisaged in the contract, these are done in accordance with the PPDA Act and regulations, and we've actually availed the detailed specifics on the projects that we submitted earlier on. Current status of investment portfolio: assets under management grew by 9% in the fourth quarter of 2022, that's 31st December 2022, to 17.3 trillion compared to 15.9 trillion in the fourth quarter of 2021. On a quarter-on-a-quarter basis, assets under management grew by 0.9%. The total portfolio returned 2.5% over the quarter, which is 89 basis points lower than the previous quarter, while year-on-year return was 12.6%, and the target for the financial year is 12%, 2 percentage points lower than the previous year. Detailed reports have also been submitted to the committee. How are investments initiated? The investment must be in accordance with the investment policy and the UBRA investment guideline. The approval process depends on the asset class. Essentially, the initial screening is by the investment team. If found attractive, the prospect is taken to the management investment committee. If approved, it's then taken to the investment and project monitoring committee of the board, and thereafter, if it's approved by IPMC, the board, we get board approval. If it's a real estate project or unlisted equity investment, we seek a no objection from the minister in charge of investments. More on the process is depicted in the investment policy statement and the procedures which have been provided to the committee. What's the process for real estate procurement? There must be a budget. If and when approved, the budget informs the procurement plan. Initiation is by the user department by raising a PPDA Form 5 to MD through the CFO. The Form 5 will include the terms of reference. After all approvals, the Form 5 is sent to Head of Procurement Department Unit, who takes it to the Contracts Committee together with the bidding document. After approval, the advertisements are made. Bidding documents are issued to bidders. The head PD will then seek Contracts Committee approval for the Evaluation Committee. After evaluation, 2 processes take place: notice of best evaluated bidder and award. After the award, the information is sent to legal to draft the contract, which is sent to Solicitor General for clearance. After the Solicitor General clearance, the draft contract is issued to the bidder. Explain the Bebeja government project. The Bebeja project is a build, own, and transfer kind of contract where government identified a piece of land in Bebeja, which the fund acquired with the objective of building a government campus that will accommodate all ministries and MDAs, about 200,000 square meters gross, 150,000 square meters lettable. The land acquisition was complete. A project consultant has been procured and the designs are underway. The fund will build the campus and upon completion will hand it over to government, which will pay rent for 15 years, after which the property will be owned permanently by government. The fund will earn an internal rate of return of 21.9% for the benefit of members. Status of the contract for the development Yusuf Lule project. The initial project was cancelled because, among others, the bid price was higher than available budget. The fund is in the process of procuring another vendor. Status of the procurement of the Nakigalala land / meeting with Madivani. Acquisition started with the strategic objective that's being pursued. The budgeting process takes into account prospects that are likely to be done in the financial year. The plan to acquire is included in the budget. The board recommends and the minister approves the budget. The first leg in the investment process requires MIC approval, IPMC approval, board approval, and seeking the no objection of the minister in charge of investments. After the investment has been fully approved, then the second leg starts, which is the procurement leg. The board has not yet approved the procurement of the Nakigalala land, pending the completion of the due diligence process per the board's earlier directive. The due diligence process has not yet been concluded, mainly due to multiple claims on the land which have not yet been resolved by the potential vendor. Engineering integrity reports for Pension Tower. The project consultant and an independent firm, Robert Warren, have indicated that there is no structural crack at Pension Towers. Copies of the two reports, one from the structural engineer and the other from Robert Warren, were submitted to the committee by management. Procedure for budgeting, that is submitted as one of the attachments. That came straight from the financial policy, which was also submitted to the committee. So I'll not go through that one. That's an attachment for the committee. Growth and performance of the fund, balance sheet, and P&L. That is also an attachment which shows over the last 5 years the performance of the fund. If I just read asset size, in 2017-18, the fund was 9.9 trillion shillings. 2018-2019, it was 11.3 trillion. 2019/20, the fund was 13 trillion. 2021, the fund was 15.5 trillion shillings. And 21-22, the fund was 17.3 trillion shillings. And the steady growth has actually seen in terms of how it has grown in there. From a realized income perspective, which is your P&L, the fund realized 1 trillion shillings in 2017-2018, 1.2 trillion in 2018-2019, 1.4 trillion in 2019-2020, 1.8 trillion in 2021, and then 1.7 trillion in 2021-22. In terms of interest, that was the expense ratio, which measures the efficiency that the fund has. The basic efficiency ratio in 2017 was 1.16%. 2018-2019 was 1.27%. 2019-2020 was 1.91%. 2021 was 1.06%. 2021-22 is 1.18%. And Chair, just in terms just to do a comparison, for funds of our size globally, there are about 320 firms, pension funds that are of our size. The global benchmark is 2.2%, and we are running at about around 1.18% compared to our neighbors who are far away behind us. Interest rate to the members in 2017-2018 was 15%, 2018-2019 11%, 2019-2020 was 10.75%, 2021 12.15%, 21-22 was 9.65%. Do you have performance targets? Yes, sir, we have. They are based on the fund constructs in strategy in 10-year cycles. The first initial 10-year cycle is ending in 2025, so we have got targets for 2025. We have actually 4 strategic outcomes we seek by 2025. One, that the fund would be a 20 trillion shilling fund. Right now, your chairman, we're around about 18 trillion shillings, and we're about 2 years out of 2025. The second one is to get 20 trillion shillings, we must make sure that our members are actually pleased, are happy, engaged, satisfied with the services we offer. And the target for that is 95%. Right now, sir, we are running around 83%, but the target for this year alone was 87%. So we're about 5% behind. We have about 5 months to basically catch up on that. To serve and make our customers happy, you must make sure that the staff who serve them are actually engaged, satisfied, and so we have got a staff satisfaction target of 95%. And right now, we are around, the target for this year was 92%. We are hovering right around 92%. And then lastly, the staff must have processes that are really good, that actually will deliver the things that they need. And the target for 2025 was 1 day processing time for age benefit, Right now, we are doing about 8 days, 8.4 days, and the target for this year is 8 days. So when we look at the 2025 targets, we are most likely going to get there. In fact, here, what we've done is we are now beginning to talk about the 2035 vision, which is the next 10-year cycle. So basically, our 2025 strategic outcomes are going to be milestones as we go through the next strategic time. Could we have done better? The answer is yes. I think the fund is not a typical investment firm. We are basically managed in a very tight regulatory environment. A private fund, a private real estate developer doesn't have to go through the things that we go through. So the one question would be, could we have done better if we didn't have all the regulatory compliance matters we need to? Yes, we would have done better in that case. What legal framework or policy governs any donation that the fund makes? The fund donations are governed by the corporate social responsibility policy. The fund's corporate social responsibility embeds the concept of sustainability beyond profit maximization and is threefold, namely building partnerships, good corporate governance, and corporate philanthropy. Within the context of corporate philanthropy, the fund is enabled to donate and has on several occasions donated to several public and private organizations, including the unions. What has been the relationship between COF2 and NOTU? The fund's relationship with unions is premised on the ILO Convention number 144 on tripartism, which is basically government workers and employers, which is now operationalized through the NSF Act as amended. Traditionally, the fund has engaged the unions on a CSR basis, especially on sensitization of members. Active reports from the unions. When an entity requests for a donation, that entity indicates the purpose of the donation. If the fund determines that the donation meets the CSR policy, disbursement then is made. The entities are not required to provide activity reports. Because the donation to unions were under CSR, just as with other entities, there were no requirement for them to provide activity reports. Genesis of the MOU with COF2. With the enactment of the NSF Amendment Bill, the fund is seeking ways of extending coverage without necessarily expanding its network. The fund has partnered with banks and bank agents to enable collection of contributions. Unions have several members, and therefore this is a catchment area for the fund to tap into, as not all union members are registered with the fund. This is the genesis for the MOU with the COF2. In fact, we began discussions between both KNOTU and COF2, I believe, in August. We held a meeting with them because at that point we realized if we're going to want them to be able to deliver, we need to kind of have a different type of relationship, which would have accountability and basically deliverables and results that we would count on. However, to actualize the MOU, the parties have to agree on targets and ways to measure the partnership. On 12/14, Dr. Lumok wrote to the fund how much was given to COF2 as a result. The fund received the letter from COF2, and as is the practice, a request for funding made to the fund does not mean that the funds are released. The fund did not act on the letter, and no monies were dispersed to COF2. How does NSF handle other stakeholders? Our stakeholder management policy defines how we handle stakeholders. Section 5 of the fund stakeholder management policy spells this out. We seek partnership with stakeholders who command influence and are highly interested in the fund. We engage stakeholders who command power but are not highly interested in the fund. We keep informed stakeholders who are highly interested in the fund but do not have any influence at all. Was the 6 billion approved? The matter of the 6 billion was presented to the board. The board directed management to prepare detailed activities and work plan and budget to support the intended objective. On November 25th, 2022, there was a consultative meeting with the board, senior management, and attended by the Honorable Minister of Gender, Labor, and Social Development, in which a draft work plan was presented. A directive was given to management to refine the plan to be presented to the board for its consideration and endorsement. This is still pending. How did DMD become acting MD? DMD was appointed by the board on 1st December 2022 to caretake the office of the managing director, pending substantive appointment of an MD as per section 39 of the NSF Act as amended. This was after the board received and considered the minister's letter asking the board to oversee an interim arrangement for the current DMA to act as the managing director until the office substantially filed. We've actually provided these letters also to the committee. Role of MD and DMD, the job description for the two roles have been provided to the committee. What does the Human Resource Policy Manual say about the age of staff? NSF Human Resource Policy Procedures Manual states the retirement age of the fund shall be 60 years. An employee shall proceed on normal retirement after attainment of 60 years. The policy also provides for a discretionary 2-year extension when the employee has special skills or competences or experience. What was the age of the MD and DMD at the time they were recommended for appointment? The age of the MD and DMD when recommended for appointment were 61 years and 62 years respectively. The board's recommendation for a 5-year term for the MD and DMD was based on advice from the Solicitor General and Attorney General. The statutory officers were not bound by the retirement age stated in the Human Resource Policy Manual. Learning Center status, we've got an update that we've attached for members to basically go through. What's the HR policy? We will discuss that. Contracts for all top management, chairman, these were all provided to the committee. HR policy has been provided to the committee. The organogram before and after the reorganization has also been provided. Minutes and resolution of top management has also been provided. And the audited financial statement for the last 5 years have also been provided. So I submit. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation, honorable members. It's 12:42. Would you wish to ask the questions now? Would you wish to break off for an early lunch so that we do a marathon? Because if we asked all the questions, they would still not be able to respond right now, before lunch. How would you want us to proceed? Honorable Bakaulindi?
Thanks, Chair. There are 2 sets of questions. The first set is arising out of the response. The second set is what we have out of the various documents. We don't want to mix the two. The first set of questions is in the form of clarification. And I wish that before we break, we seek clarification from what has been presented.
Honorable members may have questions in regard to some of the issues that have been presented. So I need confirmation from the honorable members. Do you want us to proceed and ask the questions and come back after lunch for the responses?
No?
Honorable Amos?
Thank you, Chair. Checking our time, it is almost a quarter to 1. And Chair, when you are opening, you told us that we are going to have a marathon engagement up to 7. Having said that, and even your indication from your questioning, I would propose that we break off for an early lunch for about 30 minutes. Then we come and take a marathon engagement without stopping. That is my opinion.
In a contrary view, Honorable Masaba?
No, mine is not contrary. I'm supporting what Honorable Amos has proposed. Let's break off, then come back here in 30 minutes.
It's exactly 12:44. At exactly 1:15, we shall resume. I'm therefore suspending this committee sitting for exactly 30 minutes. We welcome you to the canteen, the parliamentary canteen, although you are too many. But we invite you to our parliamentary canteen to have an early lunch so that we can proceed without interruptions. Meeting suspended.